Okay, so I was out with Eden and Mary Catherine just a little while ago, and we were doing some coaching with somebody via text message, and it brought up a conversation that's something that I'm very, very passionate about. And so my intention with tonight's training is to help you potentially break through and reframe your experience around something that has been perpetuated. Hang on one second. Sorry, I could Eden was listening downstairs, and I could hear the sound coming upstairs, and it was just like, when you have ears this big, it's just real annoying just to hear every little detail. It's just a pain in the ass. Okay, so so anyway, my intention is to help you kind of reframe the way you look at something, because I think sometimes, especially in the world of personal development, I think you hear a lot of people say a lot of the same stuff over and over again, and then you accept it as truth. And sometimes when we accept something as truth for too long, we then start to live our lives in kind of parallel with that conditioned belief. How many of you have had that experience where you've just kind of one day woken up and been like, actually, that's not true for me, or I'm shifting my beliefs around something, or you've learned how to reframe a story that you've been telling yourself, right? So this is a big one though. And it's one that when you're willing to really start to look at it in a new way, I personally believe will create an environment where you're more willing to take action more often and more consistently. Because how many of you just wish that you were in a greater amount of action on a more consistent basis, but for any number of reasons you choose to get stuck or remain where you are? How many of you have had that experience? Go like this or type in the chat box. So I know I'm not alone, right? Okay. Well, one of the big things that gets perpetuated in our world, in the world of personal growth, is there's a lie that you've been told and there's a lie that you've been sold. And again, like I said, this is going to be completely different than what you're accustomed to being taught. So fill in the blank. Fill in the blank, just write in the chat box. Growth is on the other side of your blank. Everything that you want is on the other side of your blank. That's right, comfort zone, right? Growth is on the other side of your comfort zone. Success is on the other side of your comfort zone. If you want to create new results in your life, you have to get out of your comfort zone, right? How many of you have heard that over and over and over again, that everything exists on the outside of your comfort zone, right? That growth is on the other side of the comfort zone, right? We hear it all the time. And so because we hear it all the time, what do we start to do? We start to lean on and create stories around new actions feeling what? Uncomfortable. Oh, okay. Well, they challenged me to reach out to, right, try and get uncomfortable, right? You got to try and get uncomfortable. You got to get out of your comfort zone, right? So this week they said, reach out and connect with 5 new people a day, right? 5 new people a day. That's really uncomfortable for me. I got to get out of my comfort zone on this one. How many of you have heard that over and over again, or you've had that experience where you then tell yourself, ooh, this is way outside of my comfort zone? How many of you ever found yourselves saying those words? Just type in the chat box. You found yourself saying the words, oh, this is way outside of my comfort zone, right? Or, God, when Zach and Eden role played, like if I were to ever ask questions the way that Zach asked Eden those questions, that would be way outside of my comfort zone, right? Being way outside of my comfort zone, right? And we hear it over and over and over again. And so what I want to do is I want to invite you to a bit of a paradigm shift around what you've been taught. So like I said, you can start to reframe your experience. So traditional thinking says that this is your comfort zone, right? And that all the money and relationships and the travel, right? And the sense of self, right? And the results are all outside of this comfort zone. There's even a little picture that goes around Instagram. You guys have seen it, right? It goes like comfort zone, then growth zone, then whatever zone. How many of you have seen that, right? You've seen that picture, and then it gets reposted and everyone's like, yeah, I'm feeling this one today. And what you don't recognize is that you're continually sinking yourself deeper into a bought belief that's not true. Because let me ask you a question. Okay, so here's how I want you to answer. I'll either want you to answer with a U for uncomfortable or a C for comfortable, okay? I'm gonna do word association. You respond with U or C, okay? So a U stands for uncomfortable, a C stands for comfortable, okay? So, financial stress. Job you hate. A job you hate is comfortable? Okay. So again for instructions, so if it's uncomfortable, type a U. If it's comfortable, type a C. So a job you hate. Job you hate. Okay. Unfulfilling relationships. Toxic friendships. Insecurity. Inconsistency. Huge amounts of debt. Lack of fulfillment. No confidence. Lack of belief. Broke mindset. A story that says, I'm not good enough. A story that says, I'm unworthy. A story that says, I could never be like them, as good as they are. Lack of skills. Fear. Sleepless nights. Anxiety. Depression. Constant worry. Self-doubt. Shame. Perfectionism. Fear of rejection. Uncertainty. The need to control everything. Fear of looking bad. Hesitating. Starting and stopping. Beating yourself up. Weird. So, when you say that taking an action that's in contrast to what you're experiencing Are you really looking to get out of your comfort zone? Or are you looking to get out of your uncomfort zone? Giselle, that's exactly what I mean. Is there anything comfortable about any of this? You all said you for every single answer. So the lie that you've been told is that this is comfortable. The lie that you've been told on the podcasts you've listened to, the books you've read, the seminars you've attended, is that this is part of your comfort zone. And there's nothing comfortable about any of these things. Would you agree? If you agree with that, just type a 1 in the chat box or a yes, right? Would you agree that there's nothing comfortable about this space? Nothing comfortable about this space at all whatsoever. When I was broke and scraping for change, and I would use that change to buy cigarettes instead of food because it was cheaper to buy cigarettes to suppress my appetite than it was to feed myself, there was nothing comfortable about that. When I was living on my mom's couch, debating how I wanted to kill myself, there was nothing comfortable about that. This is completely uncomfortable. And so the question I want you to start to ask yourself is, do you want to be comfortable? You don't want to be comfortable? Let me ask you a question. If you were taking a flight from wherever you live to Europe or to Australia where Yash is, right? 17-hour flight. You want to fly coach or you want to fly first class? Type in the chat box. You want to fly coach or first class? You want to fly coach? Okay. First class, the desire. Why do you want to fly first class? It's way more comfortable. It's way more comfortable. If you're taking a long road trip, do you want to be in a car that breaks down every 5 minutes, or do you want to be in a luxury vehicle that you know is going to get you to the destination where you're headed comfortably? The luxury vehicle, comfortably. So don't confuse where you want to go with where you're currently at because you're convinced that this is comfortable. There's nothing comfortable about this. So the next time you find yourself sitting at your desk, ready to make some reach outs, ready to follow up, ready to follow the templates, the more you find yourself stuck in that, and you say, this isn't comfortable for me. Ask yourself, what's more uncomfortable? You tell me, what's more uncomfortable? The possibility of someone saying no, or staying in here? Don't confuse comfort with complacency. Don't confuse the familiar with discomfort. Don't confuse those things. Are there things that are going to stretch you? Absolutely. Exactly, Pao. Exactly. Weigh it up on the scale. What's more uncomfortable, leaving your kids at daycare or doing 5 contacts in a day and inviting like crazy to the webinar? What's more uncomfortable? You tell me. You tell me. But again, everyone says it's on the other side of your comfort zone. It's on the other side of your comfort zone. Well, think about this for a moment. Why do you think so many people stay stuck when they hear that stuff? Because they create the story that says, oh, it's not comfortable. It's such a reach for me. This is such a big deal. Oh my God, this is way outside of what I'm accustomed to doing as a person. And so when you tell yourself the story like that, like the way I just said it, are you more likely or less likely to take action? When you've bought into the belief that something is going to be uncomfortable or hard or difficult or outside of your familiarity, when you tell yourself that story, is it going to be easier to take action or harder to take action? You're less likely to take action. It's way harder because you're convinced. You're convinced. You're convinced that it's going to be hard because you've told yourself a story. Oh no, I'm comfortable here. BS. You're not comfortable here. That's the lie. That's the lie that gets sold to you. That's the lie that you buy into. The lie that says that everything I desire is outside of my comfort zone. Incorrect. Everything that you desire is outside of your unwillingness to accept what's inside this circle as okay. I'm gonna say that part again. Everything that you desire in your life, and those might be big things, those might be small things, is on the other side of your unwillingness to accept this as being okay. Is it normal to feel things like stress and worry and anxiety and all that? Of course, it's human. Nothing wrong with that. Feel your feelings, have your emotions, not a big deal. But were we designed, in your belief, really, like, were you designed to live 60, 70, 80 years of your life just in this whole realm of uncomfortability? I can't imagine that you feel that way. I can't imagine that for a moment. So the next time you're feeling stuck, or the next time you're feeling complacent, or the next time you find yourself settling, just come back to all the you's that you marked in the chat box. When you find a lack of consistency coming up again and again and again, anchor into this. What do I value more? What's more important to me? When I look back on my life, when you look back on your life, do you think you're going to look back on your life and be like, man, I am really glad that I did not ask those people to take a look at my business because of the probability that they would have said no to me. I'm really glad that I did that. That's not the number one regret of the dying. The number one regret of the dying is quite opposite, in fact. The number one regret of the dying is I wish I hadn't listened to so many people, and I would have pursued the things that I was passionate about in my life, and I would have taken more chances. But society says it's okay to live here. Society says this is what's comfortable. Society says this is normal. Everybody feels this way. Everybody has financial strain. Everybody has tons of debt. Everybody's insecure. Everybody. Know why they tell you that? You know why they tell you that? Because they're terrified that if you leave this circle, guess what it means for them? It means they don't have excuses to stay here anymore, to be complacent. And so if you're ready to shake shit up in your life, excuse my language, but if you're ready to shake shit up in your life, you got to be really willing to start to juxtapose what you're defining as uncomfortable versus the reality of what's uncomfortable. You got to be willing to hold those two things up in a mirror, look them honestly in the face. Who am I being? What am I doing? What actions am I taking? What actions am I not taking? And why? And what do I value more? What do I value more? Am I willing to let go of my fear of looking bad so that life can feel good? How willing are you? You know, I find Labor Day to be a very ironic day. Very fascinating day to me. Very fascinating. And the reason I find Labor Day to be a fascinating day is not because the labor and workforce should not be honored, but we're talking about a 120 some odd year old holiday that to this day, the vast majority of the population, what are they doing today? They're partying, they're drinking, they're at the beach, they're doing their thing. No big deal. But it's mind-boggling to me. Why? Because all that does is keeps them here. What was I doing today? I was working. What will I be doing tomorrow? Working. Why? Because I never, ever, ever want to live in a position where complacency feels good, where I'm only allowed 1 or 2 days off of work every single year because you said so, where my life is controlled by a societal conditioning that says, well, that's just the way it is. That's just how it goes. That's how it's always been. And that's absurd, because there's more than enough for you. And it's waiting for you. And it's calling to you. And it's signaling you. And there's opportunities showing up for you every single day to start to create a new reality as long as you're willing to start to create a new acceptance of what this circle really is and how much it's preventing you from creating the results that you deserve in your life. And when you get clear on this, that no longer am I willing to tolerate that. I don't like feeling that way. I don't want to live in this space. I'm not interested in this. I'm interested in where I'm going and who I'm becoming. And am I going to get to learn some new skills and develop some new habits and have some new conversations and learn how to ask questions in a new way? Yes, of course. But if I'm capable of living in this space, make no mistake, I'm capable of living in this space. Make no mistake. Don't get it twisted. If you can learn to condition yourself into this way of thinking, guess what else is true? You can condition yourself to live in this way of thinking. Doesn't matter what your background is. Doesn't matter what your race is. Doesn't matter if you had a good relationship with your parents or a terrible relationship with your parents. Doesn't matter if you went to high school. Doesn't matter if you have a PhD. Does not matter. The world doesn't care about your story. It doesn't. And that's why it leaves you here. You got to care about your story. You got to decide how you want to show up. You got to decide what part of this is no longer acceptable for you and your life. Are you willing to break the chain of conditioning that's been put upon you that has you feeling what you're feeling, thinking that this is normal? That's on you. That's on you. So every day from now on, one day at a time, one foot in front of the other, suit up and boot up, like my mom used to say to me every single day. The world's going to keep moving. It will not wait for you. It won't. But you can define and determine how you want to exist in this thing called life. You can determine what it feels like. Being financially stressed is a choice. Being insecure is a choice. Lack of confidence is a choice. You have every ability to cognitively, consciously choose into how you want to feel, who you want to be, what your attitude is, how you're going to show up on any given day. And what keeps you here, right in here, is something happens in your life way out here. And what do? Because you're so committed to this complacency zone, you're so committed to this discomfort, you're so committed to this familiarity, that you make this out here mean something about here. Oh yeah, this is just a reflection of this happening in my life, blah, 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 blah. I got to get uncomfortable if I want to change that. No. Just hold up a mirror. Just hold up a mirror. What's more uncomfortable? So as we start to go into the fourth quarter, and last week we talked about sprinting, and this being sprinting season, are you willing to commit to a new way of being and a new way of looking at the reasons why you might or might not decide to create a new result in your life? Stop settling for less. Stop telling yourself you're not worth more. Stop telling yourself that you don't deserve any of number of the things that are in kind of the wide variety of things that life has to offer. Doesn't mean you're not going to still experience these emotions. Doesn't mean that. That's not the point. That's not the point. The point is, you can have both. You can have bad days while not being financially stressed out. You can have 100 people tell you no in a day and say you're stupid, you're crazy, this is ridiculous, it's a pyramid scheme, blah, 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 and still have a phenomenal attitude and say, great, thanks so much for your feedback, and then still show up the next day. It's all a choice. So I just want to know from you, for you, as we move forward together as a team and as a unit on this journey, who are you going to choose to be? How are you going to show up, regardless of circumstances, regardless of your past, regardless of whatever stories you've been told or that you've told yourself or that some coach has told you? What are you going to choose into? What are you going to create? What's waiting for you on the other side of this? You tell me. You tell me. And whenever you're ready, guess what? That's going to be me and Eden. Saying we knew you could. Been ready for you. Been waiting for you. Whenever you're ready, we'll be ready for you. Have a good evening, everybody. Lots of love. I'm going to post in the group, what did you learn? If you learned anything, feel free to comment. If you didn't, it's all good too. We'll see you guys next time. Have a great week.